Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 314 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by former heavyweight world title challenger and dear friend Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, man?
I'm good, my man. How about you?
Always good when speaking with you, Eddie. Always good when speaking with you. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. We're going to start here Friday, October 15th at the Pechanga Arena, San Diego, California, USA. Over here, this one was on ESPN+. Just one fight really to mention. It was the main event. Emmanuel Navarrete, now 35-1. A unanimous decision over 12 against former world title challenger Joet Gonzalez, now 24-2. Scorecards 116-112 twice and 118-110. I think it was a little bit of an easy pick. That's what I expected to happen, really. I really rate Navarrete as a fighter. Obviously, still very young as well. I mean, Joet Gonzalez, the challenger here for the world title, obviously it was a defense of Navarrete's WBO featherweight title. He's actually older than Navarrete because Navarrete is only 26, Joet Gonzalez 28. We forget how young he is, Navarrete. Such a good fighter. I expected him to win. I expected him to probably win on points, and he did. Moving out now to the Arena Riga in Latvia. Over here, top cruiserweight Maris Bradis defended successfully his IBF cruiserweight world title against Artur Mann, who's now 17-2. Bradis now 28-1. A TKO in the third round. Straight away, they've called out Lawrence Okoli. What an amazing fight that'd be. Bring it on, I say. On the undercard as well, friend of the show, Harlem Eubank moved to 12-0. His opponent, Nika Nakashidze, retired on his store after 5 rounds. So Harlem Eubank, like I say, 12-0. Moving out now to the Newcastle Arena, Newcastle, United Kingdom. Over here, let's start with the main event, I think. Well, I'm not even sure what the main event was. It was kind of weird the way they scheduled everything. The best fights, I felt, came on first on the telecast. It was weird. Anyway, let's just start with whatever. I'm going to start with the big men. Hughie Fury with a win, now 26-3. His opponent, Christian Hammer, retired on his store after 5 rounds, citing a bicep injury. Not many people are buying it, to be honest with you. I think Hughie Fury boxed quite well. I think the fight was more of a fight than a boxing match. In my eyes anyway. I expected it to 100% go the distance. It didn't go the distance, obviously, but I expected Hughie Fury to win, and he did. So he's the first man to actually stop Hammer since, I believe, his cousin Tyson Fury. I mean, he's been the distance in the meantime with Povetkin, with Pulev. Was it Pulev? Povetkin, Luis Ortiz. So that's a statement there from Hughie Fury. You've unmuted yourself, Eddie, so I guess you're going to say something.
Yeah, I actually watched it.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't able to watch it live, but I watched it. I think a playback of it, and this really takes me back to when I was working with Huey and all of the things he would do. He just does so many different things. Sometimes I think he does it a little bit much, but a lot of times it's just he puts people in such awkward positions with how he switches stances and throws jabs from. Sometimes you don't even know what stance he's in. You know what I mean? He has a great deal of talent and ability. He's not his punches aren't really like showy. You know what I mean? They don't look like, he knocks somebody crazy out. You know what I mean? Like with his power, but he has workman type of performances. He's the kind of guy that he'll put his hands on you a lot. At times he can be a little inactive. But in this case, when I watched the fight, he was counter-punching well, moving well. He let himself get in the corner a little bit too many times because I think Hammer's only chance was to get him in the corner and pound on his body a little bit, try to wear him down. But he also has a granite chin, so it's really difficult for someone to just beat Huey outright. Plus, he's a big guy too. So, but it was actually an interesting fight, and I was happy to see Huey do well.
Yeah, me too. Friend of the show, of course, Huey Fury. Really nice guy. Yeah, I'm happy for Peter Fury as well, obviously in the corner with his son, and in the corner for this one. Here's Savannah Marshall, now 11-0, a TKO in round 2 against Lolita Musea, who is now 16-1. She was undefeated going in. She came and, really gave it a go in the first round, absolutely emptied the tank. And she was able to mark up Marshall initially in the first round. Marshall had a little bit of reddening on the face and stuff like that. But, ultimately she was taken out by Marshall, and it was a good stoppage from the referee. Defense there of Marshall's WBO female middleweight title, and an immediate announcement afterwards saying that Clarissa Shields will be sharing a card with Marshall. I think it's in... was it November? I've forgotten right now. But anyway, they're going to share a card later on in the year. Then they're going to get it on, and it's going to be a huge fight, and it's going to take place in early 2022. Elsewhere on that card, Chris Eubank Jr. now 31-2, a retirement after 5 rounds. His opponent Wanik Aldijan retired in the corner, now 28-2. He was hurt by a body shot. I'm not sure if it was a quit job or not. I think he said he broke his rib. I don't know. It is what it is. But it's weird how many people retired on their stall in round 5 or after round 5. I think that's 3 already we've talked about there. Obviously Harlem Eubank and Chris Eubank and Huey Fury. Weird. Bradley Ray with a win, 11-0 now. Really pleased for him. A points win over 8 against the very tough and game Jez Smith. Now 13-4 with a draw. Referee gave the scorecard 77-75 there for Bradley Ray. Smith down in the first round from a left to the body. I didn't actually manage to catch all of this fight. I saw the last few rounds. It looked like a brilliant fight. And Bradley Ray nearly had him out there, I think, in the last round. Really pleased for him. Very good guy. Obviously, it's a bit tricky, pulling in someone like Jez Smith on, what was it, about 2 weeks' notice, something like that. It's very, very tricky. Jez Smith, very experienced, way better than his record suggests, and he pushed Bradley Ray close there, and it's a great fight there for Bradley Ray to learn from and to bounce into, to also springboard, I guess, into bigger and better fights, really, because I think he's got quite a high ceiling. We're yet to see where it is, of course, but he is ticking all the right boxes at the minute, man, and no one has an easy fight with Jez Smith. You've only got to look down his record to see that. Kerman Leharaga had nightmares with him, and that's an established European level fighter there. Bradley Ray still coming through, like I say, only 11-0. It's got to be probably the hardest fight on his on his resume at the moment there. And moving out now to the Chuck Chansey Park in Fresno, California, USA. This one, of course, was on DAZN. An upset, actually. Elwin Soto dethroned of his WBO World Light Flyweight title against Jonathan Gonzalez. That was a split decision over 12 for Gonzalez. He's now 25-3 with a draw. Elwin Soto 19-2. Elsewhere on the card, Brock Jarvis, the Australian, moved to 20-0, but oh my god, he was absolutely gone. I think in one of the rounds he come back and got the knockout in round 5 against Alejandro Frias, who's now 13-5 with 2 draws. Brock Jarvis, I think, very low ceiling, I'd say. Jesse Bam Rodriguez, a man with a very high ceiling, now 14-0, a KO in round 4 against Jose Burgos. Nikita Ababi with a win as well, 11-0, pretty much a shutout against Sani Duverson. That's the 5th loss in a row for him. He's now 11-5 with 2 draws. And Diego Pacheco with a win, a last round KO. That was an 8th round KO against Lucas De Abreu, who was undefeated, 12-0. Now Pacheco is 13-0. But the main event, of course, oh boy, Mikey Garcia upset here, 40-2 against Sandor Martin, who's now 39-2. It was a majority decision over 10 rounds for the Spaniard, and I was absolutely shocked. I mean, Mikey started really slow in the fight. He allowed Martin to get into a groove, and when he got into the groove, he was stuck in the groove. He didn't come back out. Mikey did a lot of feints early on. They were working, the Spaniard looked a little bit worried about the power of Mikey, the pressure of Mikey, but he was, I don't know. He just didn't do anything with those feints, Mikey. He had the guy weary. Martin was weary, but Mikey, like I say, did all the feints and didn't do enough throwing. And Martin boxed out of his skin. It was by far the best performance of his career. He showed laser-like upper body movement, and Garcia was really struggling to land shots. He was being outworked. Sandor Martin's footwork was excellent. Mikey looked old and old overnight, or rusty. Obviously, they mentioned he's had 7 fights in 7 years. I think his prime's gone. I think he's had a lot of promotional issues, and it's a big shame because he was second best in every department. And I've always been the number 1 member of the Mikey Garcia fan club, and it hurts me to admit this, but he looked dreadful, and I felt the right man won. I'm glad they didn't rob him, and it was crazy. It left me speechless. I don't know if he needs to consider his future, and I mean maybe retire, or perhaps go back down to 140, because 147 is never going to really be his weight class. I mean, come on, he's not going to beat, you wouldn't even give him a chance against someone like Crawford or someone like, well, we've already seen the Errol Spence fight. They're the 2 champions, so he's not going to beat Crawford based on that. He's not really got any business up at that weight. He's already a 4-weight world champion. That tells you all you need to know. He doesn't need to become a 5th weight world champion, a 5-weight world champion. He should go back down to one of those weight classes that he was the absolute king at. They even said on the commentary he needs a KO after, I think it was 6 rounds. So they saw what I saw as well, and it was bad for Mikey Garcia. He said he felt he won the fight, but yeah, I think he probably will watch it back. He's a very honest guy. I've been a massive fan of him, not just as a boxer, but as a person. Such a cool guy. He's on the intro every week, for crying out loud. You don't make it that far if I don't like you a lot, but it just wasn't to be his night. Eddie, I don't know if you saw any of it. If you did, please throw in your take. If you didn't, then where do you think Mikey goes from here based on what I've told you?
Honestly, I watched the highlights. At first, I didn't see a lot that separated them, but as the guy got more confident, got into a groove, he proved he belonged, at least at this version of Mikey fighting at that weight. And I think the guy was a little bit sharper, with his hand speed. And I think his crafty movement, head movement, threw Mikey off. Like, Mikey is not one of those guys that is skilled in a way where guys would say, like, he's crafty, but he doesn't have a whole lot of the what I like to call the sauce. That's not his style. You know what I mean? He's good technically. He does a lot of good, does a lot of things right, but he doesn't have any real extra things about him. But what makes him intriguing is that he was always able to win. He was always able to come out on top, and he was always in more than in the fights. He was pretty much dominating at his right weight. But when he went up and fought Errol Spence, I know a lot of people are going to start attributing to the fight when he fought Errol Spence and basically say, oh, well, he took a lot out of him and all of that. But he hasn't been active. He hasn't taken a lot of punishment since. He's I don't think it's that. I think it's just him being at the heavier weight, fighting guys at that size that are doing things in some ways, like this guy, a little bit faster than him. You know what I mean? Able to take his punch, able to keep certain distance between them, able to get respect from him too as well. So it's like, it's really difficult to campaign at a heavier weight like this if you're not going to be able to do what you're famous for. You know what I mean? Out punching guys, out skilling them. And it's just unfortunate because Mikey, most of us agree that Mikey was one of the best fighters in the world, especially before he fought Earl. So it's just unfortunate now to see him in this position, having this big upset like this, and, his career at this point, I definitely think he should, at least think about campaigning at 140, 135 at least, you know what I mean? And just to see where it goes, get back into his winning ways, get some more confidence. Not to say that his confidence is that shaken from it, because he obviously still thinks he's won the fight or whatever, but at the end of the day, the judges gave it to the other guy, and most people agree with him. So you've got to regroup. You know what I mean? He's got to regroup. He's got to get back to what he's really good at, where he's comfortable weight-wise, and handle business there. And then hopefully we'll see him rise back up to the top. As far as Martin, I mean, this sky's the limit now for him. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't go crazy over this win to the point where I'm calling out some of the real serious guys out there, like, you know, like the Earl Spencers and all of those, and Terrence Crawfords and Sean Porters and even the young guy. I think a lot of these guys should stay away from lieutenants too. So I wouldn't go crazy, but I would start to look at ways of putting myself in position to make some real money, and see how I fare against the top competition. But find somebody a little more doable than those guys.
Okay, there we have it. But just before we welcome our special guest, it's now time to thank our sponsor. This podcast is sponsored by Manscaped, but the opinions expressed are those of myself and former heavyweight world title challenger Eddie Chambers. Halloween is approaching, if you didn't already know. I'm sure you did. But the one thing that's spookier than seeing a black cat on Halloween is shaving your balls with anything other than Manscaped. When it comes to below the waist grooming, there's no need to carve your pumpkins. You don't need to do that because Manscaped is here to upgrade your grooming experience. Go from a bite-sized candy bar to a king-size candy bar and join the 2 million men worldwide by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code BoxHard. Now, I'm sure a lot of you that are into that stuff are into, below the waist grooming. I'm sure there's been times where you've tried to trim your balls and it's turned into a Freddy Krueger film. No need for that to happen again. Manscaped is here to save the day and make sure you're smelling fresh as well with their new their new formulas. There's new ones all the time. I myself have tried, obviously, the Crop Preserver, which is the ball deodorant, and I've tried the Crop Reviver, which is the ball toner. As I've said before, myself and Eddie absolutely love this stuff. Again, you can buy the Performance Package 4.0 with that 20% off discount, and it is so worth it, I must say. I mean, their finely tuned pube products feature a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is easily the greatest ball trimmer on the planet, and as I said, it is waterproof. You can take this thing in the shower. Again, inside that Performance Package 4.0, you get the Weed Whacker, a total game changer to your men's hygiene arsenal. And of course, the Weed Whacker is a nose and ear hair trimmer that provides proprietary skin safe technology that helps prevent nicks, snags and tugs in those delicate holes, and then seal the deal with the liquid formulations. As I said, the Crop Preserver, the ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver, the ball toner, these will make sure your pumpkins stay fresh. Trust me when I say this, fellas, your balls will thank you. And again, if you buy this particular package, the 4.0, Manscaped even throw in 2 free gifts, and those gifts are the Manscaped Boxers and the Shed Travel Bag. Bring your comfort and boxers to another level. Remember, if you're looking like you're being picked up and carried on Wolverine's shoulders, manscaped.com is the website to visit. And remember to use that promo code BOXHARD for 20% off plus free shipping. But anyway, that's it though for part 1. The final thing for me to do is to welcome our special guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO junior welterweight and IBF welterweight champion of the world. It is, of course, the KO King, Mr. Randall Bailey. Randall, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you for having me, man.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on, Randall. So I'd like to start where I always start with these kinds of interviews. Where did the boxing journey begin? What's your earliest memory of ever first lacing up a pair of boxing gloves?
Back in, I want to say, it was like 80, I think, 89. I had my mom take me to the gym, and I mean, my second day at the gym, I was sparring. I was sparring kids that had fights already. And just off of what they showed me the day before, they showed me a jab and a straight right hand. I was sparring just using the jab and the right hand, and right then and there, they couldn't believe that was my second day in the gym.
Wow, that's incredible, man. That's incredible. I like to ask that question. There's a lot of different answers we get. Obviously, before you turn pro, you boxed as an amateur. Do you remember how many amateur fights you had?
Yeah, I had 19 amateur fights.
Okay, so not a real long career. Did you have...
15, I think it was 15-4.
15-4, okay. Did you have a standout kind of highlight moment of your amateur career at all?
Yeah, a lot of them. I knocked a guy out in the Julian Jackson games, and his body went through the ropes and his legs stayed in the ring.
Oh gosh.
And after the fight, they took me out the ring and took me in the back of a room, in some little room, and took my gloves off and unraveled my hand wraps piece by piece to see if I had anything in my hands.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy.
God. What a God.
So, obviously when you turn pro, you become one of the most devastating punchers in boxing history. In the amateurs, were you knocking guys out regularly? Obviously, you knocked that guy out the ring.
No. Well, in the amateurs, I got a lot of knockouts in the amateurs, but it was just like later on, later on when me and Freddie started hanging out a lot, and we always hung out, but as I started getting older, he started making it his business to have me in the gym with him. And when he was getting ready for his the rematch with Tracy Spann, he brought Tommy Brooks down, and Tommy Brooks pulled me to the side and he told me to work on this specific little routine every day before I did anything else. And I mean, it just increased my power to the maximum, and it wasn't nothing hard. And I just continued it, you know what I'm saying? I did it so much till I just perfected the move, and I mean, it's the results.
Yeah, they speak for themselves. So yeah, let's cast our mind back here. You made your pro debut April 6th, 1996 in Miami. You scored a first round knockout over Fernando Granda. He never boxed again after that. Do you remember much about that fight, and perhaps if you had any nervous feelings going into your pro debut?
I didn't. Well, I had nervous feelings in the neighborhood because my friend, he would always come pick me up every day. And like a couple of days before the fight, I just asked him, I was like, Tap, man, what if I lose? And he was like, man, trust me, you're not gonna lose. He used to always tell me how good I was gonna be. He was like, man, just please don't kill nobody. Because he always used to tell me I'm gonna end up killing somebody in the ring. Because he was like 200 something, but he was short, and we used to spar sometimes, and he used to tell me how hard I hit.
Wow.
He used to tell me how hard I hit. He was like, man, and at that time I really couldn't tell or even try to gauge how hard I was hitting. I was just throwing punches,
Yeah, it was natural, man. And obviously, Randall, a lot of fighters turn pro. They fight a bunch of hopeless journeymen. Most of the time, people manage to put together a nice few knockouts in a row. However, you were able to consecutively get the knockout early in fights when you first turned pro. 6 first-round KOs in a row, then a second-round KO, then a first-round KO. Then you KO Bobby Jones in round 7. The longest fight of yours at the time. After that, you knock out Israel Muhammad in 5 rounds, and after that is where you go back to knocking people out early once again within the first few rounds. 5 first-round KOs in a row, then 2 second-round KOs in a row, then a third-round KO. That's when you made the jump. I almost get lost. That's when you made the jump to fight for the world title. So let me reiterate there. 18-0, 18 KOs, but you're making a huge step up. You box the then reigning WBO junior welterweight world champion Carlos Gonzalez. Very, very experienced pro. 48-3, his record at the time. much more experienced than yourself. The fight takes place Miami, Florida, Saturday, May 15th, 1999. And quite incredibly, you knock him out in the first round. 28 seconds, I believe, is all it took. A fabulous left hook. And that was the moment, Randall, I think people thought, wow, this guy certainly is for real. Tell me about that night.
Well, a couple weeks prior to the fight, we was hearing rumors about Vince Phillips is not going to be able to make the fight, because he was originally supposed to fight Gonzalez for the title, and he was having some problems outside of the ring, and all the people in the Don King office, they was saying, give me that opportunity, because they loved me down there, man. They love me down there. Don King, the staff, everybody, they really looked out for me, and they wanted me to fight for that title, and they made it happen. 2 week notice. But prior to hearing about it, we had started watching little tapes of Bolillo, because we was already in a hotel camped away, so we started watching tapes of him, and I watched a couple of rounds of him fight. I saw him fight Hector Lopez. I think he fought Miguel Gonzalez, somebody else. I watched him fight. I watched a couple of his fights, and I was like, man, I'm gonna knock this guy out, because he just was real slow, and he came straight forward, and I'm gonna knock this guy out.
Yeah, you certainly did. But just tell me about, obviously, there's not much of the fight to discuss because it ended so quickly. But what did that mean to you, to your family, to your hometown, I guess, to win a world title in that fashion, like with all those knockouts in a row? I mean, it's just a spectacular thing.
I mean, it was mayhem that night. I was already pretty popular in Miami just growing up, but once everybody watched it on TV and came out to the event, because I didn't tell nobody I was fighting for the title. They posted it in the newspapers, and people read about it, and they just showed up, and it was sold out. And I didn't know who all was there until I was walking out to the ring.
Okay. And yeah, like I say, 28 seconds. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like I say, I'm sure you probably agree with this. A lot of people, I'm sure you had detractors like everyone else. You're knocking all these guys out. People were probably thinking, he's knocking out all these guys. He probably can't do that at world level, and you proved that you could. It's just amazing. We'll move on to your first title defense. It come against former two-time world title challenger Hector Lopez. This one took place in Mississippi, December 11th, 1999. Tell me what you remember about that fight, which of course was knockout number 20 in a row.
Yeah, Hector was a real tough, crafty veteran. He was doing things in the ring that I had never seen before, and it was just he was really just awkward and just doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Like he was like it just I can't even explain some of the stuff he was doing in the ring, but he was hitting me. And I just knew I would eventually overpower him because I knew I was hitting him really hard.
No, he was a kind of, in some ways, a throwback fighter, a very tough guy. And yeah, to think he'd gone the distance with obviously Carlos Gonzalez, with Costa Tszyu, young Costa Tszyu. And you were the only guy to have ever stopped him in his career, which is cool.
Hey, you gotta think about it. You gotta think about it. Those fights were close fights.
Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't just walk through him. Those fights could have went either way.
Exactly. That's why it's important to mention it. Like I say, the only guy to have stopped him. Your second title defense, you had to travel to Paris in France. You defended against former world title challenger Rocky Martinez. Now, this one would also end by stoppage when the ringside doctor stopped the fight at the end of round 6. The severity, of course, of Martinez's cut. Tell me about that night in Paris, Randall, having to travel to Europe, not too far from the UK where I am.
We were supposed to fight on the David Reed Trinidad card, but he wasn't ready, so it just moved it. I mean, it was too small. He was a small guy. I knew he wasn't gonna be able to hurt me or even stand up to me. And I hurt my right hand in him.
Okay.
My gloves was on too tight. I would have stopped him.
Yeah.
I think I caught him with a right hand that cut him, and I just beat his cut up with my jab. He didn't want. He stopped it.
Yeah. I think the ringside doctor did the right thing. Yeah, your third world title defense would ultimately be unsuccessful. You defended the title in Miami against Colombia's Ener Julio. The fight ends in a split decision loss over 12 rounds. Tell me about that one, and I'm sure you felt you did enough that night.
Oh, yeah, I thought I did enough to win the fight, but hey, man, this guy, Ener Julio, came in the ring that night 168 pounds.
He was a big guy.
Yeah, and I think I came in probably 147, maybe.
Okay.
And he was just a big dude, and I mean I dropped him twice. You know, I mean, hey, the judges did what they did. Hey, I can't complain about it.
Yeah, he had a kind of strange career, really. He, turned
pro.
I
ended it.
Yeah, well,
I ended it.
Yeah, he didn't really do much after that, to be fair. Yeah, you're pretty bang on the money there. After that, you returned to winning ways. You put together a 3-fight win streak, all wins coming by knockout within 2 rounds. That's when you traveled to Reading, Pennsylvania to take on Demetrio Ceballos for the interim WBA junior welterweight world title. The fight takes place on 02/02/02, February 2nd, 2002, and it took you 3 rounds to get rid of him. Tell us about that one, Randall, man.
Yeah, I mean, I was originally supposed to fight Diabeles Hurtado. Diabeles pulled out of the fight at least 3 times. And then he ended up going to fight Ricky Keelis. So right there, that should have canceled his title fight with me. But I don't know what went on. But I don't know, me and Ceballos, we agreed to fight for the title, and they let us fight. But Demetrius, I have been watching Demetrius since I was like way young, because he used to be in the gym down in Miami sparring guys a lot. So I was like, man, this guy gonna be tough, because I hadn't seen him so much. But I mean, my size for the weight was just too much for him, and the power.
Yeah, no, and he was a good fighter in many ways. I think a little bit of an underachiever. As you mentioned, he kind of was raised, I believe, in a tough environment. He had, I think, 15 or 16 siblings. And yeah, when he turned pro, obviously, a bit of a weird career. Had some tough fights. Obviously, Shane Mosley, losses to him, losses to Stevie Johnson. Miguel Cotto ended his career, but none of them did it as early as you did in round 3. That has to be said.
Oh no. Man, that fight scared the living crap out of me.
Why?
Remember I told you my first fight, when me and my friend were talking, he told me I'm gonna end up killing somebody in the ring. When you knock somebody out and they're laying on the ground stiff, can't move, but their eyes is blinking.
Yeah. I can't imagine the feeling, but it sounds scary.
that's a weird feeling. You know, I know we celebrating all, but after he got up and everything, I knew it was okay. It was kind of weird.
Yeah. And 3 months later, you traveled to San Juan, Puerto Rico, May 11th, 2002. You fought him in the end for the vacant WBA junior welterweight world title, Diabeles Hurtado. You knocked him down in round 2. You knocked him down in round 6.
No. He knocked
you
me
down in round 2. My apologies. You had him down in round 6. Then he of course wins in round 7. You were ahead as well on 2 of the 3 scorecards at the time of the stoppage.
Yeah.
First time you were on the receiving end of a knockout. Tell me about that one, Randall.
I mean, I always look at fights as what they is, just fights. You win some, you lose some. You know, it was just, I just feel like my corner really wasn't paying attention to the fight, you know, because he was in bad trouble. You know, he was in deep trouble. His, you know, blood was coming out his ear. Blood was literally pouring out his ear. I mean, I couldn't see it while I was in there, but I just feel like my corner, somebody should have noticed that, because he was done. And I'm going to tell you another one. His next fight, what round he got knocked out in? He got knocked out in like the 1st or the 3rd round, and career over.
Yeah, 2nd round, Vivian Harris. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Career over.
Okay, so I'm guessing Vivian Harris owes you a thank you there.
Exactly.
I'm on track. So 4 months after that, you returned to the ring with a first round KO in Indianapolis. This brings us into the year 2003. You boxed for the WBO junior welterweight world title against the then champion DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley.
Yeah.
The fight takes place in Washington. This time you lose by unanimous decision after 12 rounds. Tell us about that one, the first fight, of course, between you both.
It was just me and my trainer at the time. We wasn't gelling like we had before, and it was time for me to probably, you know what I'm saying, move on, and we go out separate. Me finding another trainer, because we wasn't gelling like we were before. And I mean, I just felt like he was done teaching me everything he could teach me. It wasn't no more in the bag, you know, and I had to find another way. I couldn't just go out there and keep trying to knock guys out because they hadn't figured out what I was doing.
Yeah, and DeMarcus is, he's a tricky guy. He always has been. He's a little hustler, I think. A guy that really and truly you've got to be on top form to beat. I feel like he's been like that for many years, not so much anymore, even though he's still fighting. But so moving on, 4 months later, you came back with a win over one of my favourite journeymen of all time, Reggie Strickland. The fight took place in Indiana. I obviously want to focus mainly on the biggest fights of your career, but I also want to ask, what was it like to fight Reggie, one of the few people that you were unable to knock out?
Him telling me I'm not going to knock him out. He was saying that in the ring while we was fighting. I think I dropped him like 3 or 4 times. I dropped him like 3 or 4 times, and he telling me, "You're not gonna knock me out." I got fights next week.
Yeah, and the week after.
Reggie was funny.
Yeah, he is one of my favorite of all time, man. He was a tough guy.
Hey, but let me tell you something about Reggie. If Reggie would have trained like he wanted to be a real fighter, Reggie would have beat a lot of people.
Yeah.
If you look at his record, he did beat a couple guys.
Yeah. And there's a few guys that he's got a number in the loss column, which shouldn't be. It should be in the W column as well.
Yeah. Reggie could really fight, but he didn't take the fighting part that serious. You know what I'm saying? He came in just to do what he did.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. After that is when you made the first move to welterweight. Your first fight at that weight, you boxed the future IBF junior middleweight world champion, Ishe Smith. January 15th, 2004 was the date, a Thursday evening in Cali. On this occasion, you're down in round 2 and beaten unanimously. Tell me about that one, Randall.
I thought I beat Ishe. Ishe, I mean, if you look at the fight and you look at the damage he was in after the fight, and we go again. What did he do after we fought? He retired for a whole year.
He did come back and win a world title, though.
He came back. He came back on a fucking contender. He wasn't even a real fucking fighter. Came back on a contender, man. Come on, man.
He was a tough guy, though, man. He was a tough guy. He got in there with who's who of names.
Yeah, I guess.
You got to give the guy credit, man. He's been in there with Tony Harrison, Julian Williams, Lubin, Lara.
I mean, you can't keep leaving your promoters every time they put you in with a tough guy.
Okay.
You gotta think when he left Gary Shaw after the fight with me, when he went over to Golden Boy. As soon as they thought about trying to put him in tough, he left them. Then he went over to Floyd, and Floyd gave him all the breakfast he wanted.
Okay.
And then they bought him a title shot.
All right. Threw me off track a bit there. After that, you bounce back with a knockout win over Lester Yarbrough, and then you jump right back in with top opposition. You move back down in weight, obviously, to 140. December 11th, 2004 at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, you challenged the undefeated Miguel Cotto for his WBO junior welterweight world title. This occasion, you stopped on cuts in round 6. Obviously, at that point, I feel like, he was coming through. He was a really good fighter, Cotto, but he hadn't even achieved everything at that point. I mean, he went on to be a brilliant fighter and, of course, one of the best from his nation. Tell me about that fight there. It must have been, even though I'm sure it's kind of sour grapes looking back, what a fight. And
No. That fight right there was a eye opener for me, because I didn't really have a trainer for that fight. Really, if you notice the fight, my trainer that I had he spoke Spanish. He didn't really speak that good English, but he was all I had at the time, and he was a good friend of mine. So, I had to do what I had to do, But that fight let me know that if I'm a continue boxing, I gotta find me a trainer that knows how to teach, that's gonna show me different things and help me get my career back on track. Because I was gonna retire after that fight if I didn't find somebody that could help me. And me and my trainer that I hooked up with was Norman Wilson. I fought one fight after the Cotto fight. I forgot the Colombian guy's name that I fought after the Cotto fight.
Roberto Ortega.
Roberto Ortega. I can't believe I forgot his name. Man, this guy was close. We was friends too. But after that fight, I didn't fight again for a whole year, because I had hooked up with my trainer Norman Wilson, and he was like, just take the time off, and we finna get to work, and I'm finna teach you, and you're gonna learn. And man, that was the best year I ever had, just learning how to fight again.
Yeah, back to basics kind of thing.
Yep. If you look at it, if you look after the Ortega fight, the knockouts came back.
Yeah, they did. So like we said, back to the timeline after the Cotto loss, you obviously dropped down a few levels in terms of opposition. For about 2 years, you picked up the win over Ortega. The very first fight after that, you did go the distance, Lenin Arroyo. But yeah, the knockouts did roll in, obviously. Santos, Pacquiao, Juan Perez.
No, Lenin Arroyo went the distance.
Yes, sir.
What? How many rounds?
8 rounds.
Man,
you dropped him in the second.
Man, I thought they stopped that fight. That was. You know what? It's supposed to be a 10 round, and they cut it to an 8 round. That guy was. His career was over after that fight. His family was screaming outside the ring for them to stop the fight. I was beating them so bad.
Wow.
Yeah, that was bad. That was messed up. His mom, his wife, screaming outside the ring for them to stop the fight. That's how bad I was beating them.
Wow. Yeah, but yeah, no, he managed to go the distance. He went on to not really do anything in terms of wins, but he boxed a whole heap of names. He actually was a guy that lost to Mike Jones in the future. But anyways, back on track. So yeah, you go the distance with Lenin Arroyo. You stop Santos, Pacquiao, Juan Perez, obviously Russell, Stoner Jones, Sean Gallegos as well, Harrison Cuello. And after that's when you traveled to Canada, June 8th, 2007, an upset defeat at the hands of Herman and Gujo. A split decision. Tell me about that one, Randall.
I don't really worry about those kind of fights. I know what happened. You know, if you didn't knock a Canadian out, you wasn't winning a decision in Canada.
At that time.
Simple as that. Simple as that.
He was with the right people.
Hey. Look at his career. What happened after that?
This is like a pattern, man. Everyone, even if you lose to them, quote unquote, they don't do anything afterwards.
Even if I lose, I win. never won a world title.
Yeah.
And career went down till it was over.
Yeah, he lost to Paulie Malignaggi, came back, and then lost to Juan Urango. Came back, then lost to Julio Diaz, and that was that. That was that. So 7 months after that, you come back, you knock out Anthony Mora, then you knock out Dairo Esalas in 1 round. After that is when you had the rematch with a man that had previously beaten you, DeMarcus Corley. The fight takes place in New York on a Wednesday night, October 22nd, 2008. This time, though, you avenged the defeat by beating him unanimously over 8 rounds and dropping him along the way, which at that time not many people did do. Tell us about that win and, of course, what it meant to you to right the wrong on that occasion.
It really wasn't a big deal to me. You know, I was just fighting at that time, I had my mind focused on getting back in title contention, and he just happened to be in the way. That's it. I needed the rematch, but I'm glad he gave it to me because nobody else would give me one. Out of all the people I lost to, nobody would give me a rematch, but he did. So that's my man.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. I got a lot of time for Chop Chop. That win over him got you in position to fight in the title eliminator against Francisco Figueroa in Memphis, Tennessee. You win that fight by stoppage in round 4. Easy work there for you. This is of course what got you the world title fight against the then IBF champion Juan Urango. You're the first man to knock him down, but ultimately it was him that got the stoppage, round 11. Tell me about that. Tell me about that one.
Yeah. I just stayed down there to wait too long. You know, I was dead as a doorknob for the fight. I couldn't do 140 pounds no more. The weight drain killed me.
Yeah, you were there for a long time. Like we mentioned, there was a point where you kind of half moved up for a couple of fights, and then come back down, obviously, and stayed down for a little while there. Maybe, you're probably right. You were down there too long. At that point, Randall, I'm guessing people were probably starting to think you were not the same fighter you once was. I know you're telling me about the weight, but a lot of the time people don't know about this kind of stuff. The fans don't pay attention to the weights all the time. You I guess were getting on in age in terms of prime years. You hadn't been a world champion for almost 10 years, and this was your fourth failed attempt at a world title since losing the belt. We're obviously going to get to it, of course, but you did end up picking up a world title 3 years after this. But just briefly in a nutshell, because like I said, we will get to it. How did you keep that belief? Because surely there must have been some tiny bit of self-doubt that you had, thinking your world championship days were behind you at this point.
And who had? Not mine.
Tell me about that, though. Tell me about it. Explain to me, because there's people out there that would hear the whispers and it would get them down.
It didn't matter what weight class I was in. If I was comfortable, I could win a world title. And it was just time for me to move up in weight, and I moved up and I felt comfortable, and it was just a matter of getting the shot.
So you're saying that even though it had been 10 years, even though some people are saying he's a bit too old now, even though some people are saying he's not getting the knockouts as frequently as, 10 years ago, you just completely was able to channel this out and just put it down to rubbish, pretty much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because, I went over to my first fight at welterweight. I went to Chicago and fought, what's his name?
Jermaine Saunders,
yeah. And then right after that fight, I was in the eliminator. And then I went over to Belgium and fought Jackson Bonzu.
Yeah, and I want to touch on
and knocked him out in less than a minute.
Yeah, and I want to touch on that because after the Bonsu fight is the bizarre no contest. I've seen it. What actually happened there, man? It I'm sure it was this the one where you picked the guy up and he fell out the ring?
I look at the fight, and look and see where my hands are at.
I don't think you meant to do it, but it was weird.
I meant to do it. I didn't do it. My hands were down on my side.
So
he was holding on to me. What he tried to do was balance himself on the ropes with his gloves and went over. I wasn't even holding him up.
Yeah,
I bent over, and he was leaning over on my back, trying to put his weight down on me, and all I did was stood up, and he was on top of me.
Yeah,
and I turned around, and he went to try to balance himself with his gloves on the rope instead of just getting off me.
And I remember the the post-fight interview when you're leaving the ring, and the Belgian TV, they say to you, have you ever seen anything like this before? And you say, no, I've never seen anything like this before. You didn't know what to say. It was weird, man. It was almost as if some invisible hands picked him up.
Because he wasn't hurt.
It was weird.
But he wasn't hurt. You
don't think so?
No, he wasn't hurt. The man was back at the hotel in the lobby on his computer.
Maybe he was looking for the nearby hospital, no?
He should have went there before the fight and told him to put his heart in.
Oh gosh. But no, the way he went out the ring was weird.
Did you listen to Roger Mayweather's interview after the fight?
No, I didn't. Tell me.
That's the interview you got to listen to, because he said all right there.
I will have to find that. Can't you paraphrase what he said?
And all he said was the fight was won before the freaking accident or whatever would even happen. He said, I came out dictating, doing what I wanted to do, and the other guy and his guy wasn't doing shit. Just like that.
That's how Roger was. He didn't cut any corners. He said it straight.
And then he said, well, they asked him, well, what's what's gonna happen when they do a rematch. He said, "Oh, Wally better bring a gun and catch me before we get in the ring and pull his gun on me."
Oh God. Gosh.
Roger was funny. I got an old story when I first met Roger Mayweather. When I won my first world title. He was at the fight. He had a fighter on the card, and the hotel where we had the after party at. I was going up to my room to take my belt and stuff up to the room, and me and Roger was in the elevator together, and he was like, "Man, I saw your fight tonight, man. You remind me of me. You gonna be the next Mexican killer." And he said, "When I get back home, I gotta tell my nephew about you."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Nah, man. He certainly was a character of the sport and very much missed for sure.
Yeah, man. Roger was a beast.
It's terrible how it all ended for him. Yeah, so where were we there? 9 months later, you box in Mississippi, a points win over 10 against Yuri Estrella. Then, time for the big one. June 9th, 2012, you box on the Tim Bradley-Manny Pacquiao 1 undercard. Las Vegas, you took on the undefeated 26-0 Mike Jones for the vacant IBF welterweight world title. Now, you knock him out in round 11, you become a 2-weight world champion at the ripe age of 38. Tell me about that one, man. Mm-hmm. That's an amazing achievement once again.
I mean, it took me a long time to get started for that fight. Again, I was getting older. Coming down in weight wasn't good for me no more. That's why when I won the title, I immediately, if they didn't give me the Pacquiao fight, move up to 154. They didn't want me to move up to 154. You know, I could have went. My plan was to move up to 154 pounds and challenge K9 Bundred because he was the IBF champion at the time at that weight. I mean, these things happen all the time, you know. But in my case, they wasn't going to give me that opportunity.
But just again, tell me about what that meant to you to, I guess, prove the naysayers wrong. You know, it's been 10 years.
Yeah,
I like that uppercut, that last uppercut that you landed. That's a great shot, man.
I mean, I worked hard for that fight. And that was the worst training camp I ever had in my life. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. I did most of the training in my garage at my house. You know, I probably went to the gym a couple of days to spar and try to get some mitt work in with John at the time, but it was just a horrible camp. I did a lot of strength and conditioning and did a lot of road work. You know, I knew I would be strong, and I knew if I hit him, I was going to hurt him. But again, coming down and weight was killing me.
And Randall, let me ask you this. You know, you say there that you knew if you hit him, you're gonna hurt him. Was there ever a fight, or perhaps a moment in a fight, that you thought you're not gonna hurt someone if you land? Like, or did you just always have that belief every second of a fight?
Always. Always.
Okay. I just thought if there's ever a time where you thought I actually can't hurt this guy, that's never been the case?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I love this. The title reign obviously was short. 4 months after winning it, you lose it in New York to Devon Alexander.
Yeah.
You both had points deducted in round 6. Tell me what you remember about that fight. Obviously, he was coming through. He was a real good fighter at the time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I already knew what was. That was my way. That was my exit, because they wasn't finna let me even like. I don't know. Boxing is weird, man. Boxing is weird. I knew my career was over once that fight was over.
Once the fight was over, or once the fight got made?
Once it got made, I knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. After that, you're out the ring for 13 months. When you come back, you obviously put together the 3-fight win streak. Humberto Toledo, Gundrick King, Shasuku Fujinaka, and then the final fight. I'm sure it's not the way you would have wanted it to end, but let's just talk about it real quick. You made the trip to Australia. You was out there. You took on the young and undefeated future WBO welterweight world champion Jeff Horn. You're down in round 2. He's down in round 3, and then your corner pull you out after 7 rounds. Obviously, you're getting old at this point.
I stopped it myself.
Damn, I didn't think you'd say that. Give me a few words on it, Randall. What did you think about Jeff Horn? Did you think he had at that point, the ingredients to become a world champion, to beat Manny Pacquiao?
I mean, he won the fight, but I don't think he won the fight.
Against Manny, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I told you before, the day of the weigh-in for the Jeff Horn fight, I literally fainted.
Oh man.
Luckily, my trainers was in the room with me when it happened. If I was in there by myself and I fell and hit the floor, when I got on the scale, immediately as soon as I was stepping off the scale, I passed out and they caught me.
Wow. So really and truly, you should have never been in the ring the following day.
Yeah, should have never been in the ring, and they wanted to call it off, but I had done came all the way over there. I wasn't finna do that.
Yeah,
that was a long flight.
Yeah, hell of a long flight. Okay, and that is of course where
and then again, in my head, I'm thinking
one punch.
If I hit him, I'm gonna knock him out.
Yeah, and you almost did
it. Basically, what I was saying to myself, just make it to the ring. If you make it to the ring, you should be all right. But I was dead.
And Randall, when you say that as well, because you believed in your power so much, did you ever? You can be honest now, I guess, because the career is behind you now. But did you ever cut corners in training because you thought to yourself, I don't want to run that long because it's just going to take one punch anyway? Or did you ever cut corners because of that?
You know what? I didn't cut because of that. I just thought in my head, if I was 100%, like really, I'm gonna end up killing somebody.
Wow.
And that always played in my head a little bit. So you know what? Sometimes I would be like, my 75 would be good enough.
So you were almost scared of yourself being at 100%.
Yeah, kind of.
Is that something? Obviously, it's something that you said your childhood friend said to you that you could end up killing someone. I guess that. He
did tell me that. He told me that.
I guess that seed had been planted. Is that something that I'm guessing you probably couldn't have lived with yourself if you did that.
If you look at some of the fights that I've been in, and you see the outcome of some of the fighters that I done knocked out, their careers was over.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's a lot of guys that I was looking through, and they never box again. Yeah, you're right. All right, coming down to the last few questions. These are going to be kind of quick fire. Randall, obviously your career finishes with an official record 46-9, 39 KOs. It's a sensational record, but these are the quick fire questions. We've got 1, 2, 3, about 5 or 6 of them. You were such a fearsome puncher, but who would you say out of all the guys you boxed hit the hardest?
I've never been hit that hard in a fight that made me say, wow, this guy hits hard. But in sparring, I know you don't heard of Richard Gutierrez, Colombian.
Richard Gutierrez, yeah.
That dude hits hard. And I'm talking about in sparring. I felt his punches. That dude hit hard. But guess what? That made me want to spar with him every day.
Oh gosh, yeah, he didn't really. I couldn't really remember the record and how he got on, but yeah, didn't really seem to cut it at the top level. But I love to hear these kinds of answers.
Yeah, because me and him when he was on a roll, me and him had the same trainer.
Mm-hmm.
So before I started training fully with John David Jackson, Norman Wilson was my trainer, and he was Richard Gutierrez's trainer too. And when he decided he was moving away to the Philippines, Richard had to find another trainer, and guess what? Richard's career went down from there.
Yeah. No, but it's great to hear the answers to some of this, because I thought you'd say someone like maybe, maybe like a Hurtado or something. He could hit hard.
Nah.
Okay. All right, Richard Gutierrez in sparring. Who would you say out of all the guys you fought, in all those fights we mentioned, the 55 fights, who would you say was the best all-round fighter that you shared a ring with?
I would say, it was a couple of them. Devon was good. Yeah. Hector Lopez was amazing.
Miguel Cotto.
Yeah, Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto is not a hard puncher, but he throws a lot.
Yeah.
He's gonna throw 3, 4, 5 punches at you at a time. It's more of a accumulation with Miguel Cotto, and if he keep hitting on you, guess what? You gonna start to get bruised up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're all good fighters. Of course. Which was your favourite win of all those 46? Which one stands out to you as your most personal favourite?
The Mike Jones.
Mike Jones, yeah. I think that's a great answer. Was there anyone, Randall, that you wanted to fight, or perhaps wish you could have fought but didn't get the chance to?
Oh, man, that's a lot of them.
Tell me.
I wanted to fight Teron Millette. I wanted to fight Costa Zoo. I wanted to fight Shambe Mitchell. Who else? Andre Berto. Pacquiao. It's just too many. Tim Bradley. And a lot of these guys, a couple of them, we had contracts to fight, like literally signed contracts, and these guys waited to the week of or 2 weeks to pull out of the fight.
Yeah. I thought you might have said Ricky Hatton in there.
Yeah, they wasn't never going to put me in with Ricky Hatton. Don King tried to make the fight, and they told him to go eat shit.
Randall, you sound like you speak kind of fondly of Don King. I've had a lot of fighters on this show, and I don't think I've ever heard anything nice said about Don King. In your eyes, was he a good man?
The best.
Okay. Have you got any cool Don King stories? I love hearing these.
Don is business. Oh man. Don give you anything you want. Simple as that. If you call him and you need it, he's gonna give it to you. But it's not free. Nobody is giving away free money. I don't know why fighters thought that promoters give away free money.
Yeah. I think I had someone on the show before. I can't remember who it was now. It was one of his fighters, and they said that, never accept any gifts from him because it comes straight out of your next purse.
Yeah, of course. He tells you that. Who gives away free money?
I don't know.
Not Don King. Don King not giving away free money. If he gives you something, he lets you know that it is a loan and he wants it back. Now, what he will do now, he'll negotiate with you, you know, and be like, give me, okay, if you owe him $100,000, he'd be like, all right, just give me 50 back, you know, stuff like that.
Okay. I want to ask you this as well, Randall. Are there any regrets? If you could go back and change something, would you? What would it be? Do you have any regrets?
Nah.
That's the best answer. I love it when not many fighters say that to me. A lot of fighters have got tons of regrets. They want to go back and do this. The best way to be, of course, the key to happiness is to have no regrets. Okay, that's great. I'm pleased to hear you say that. I want to ask you as well, Randall. Obviously, the career's come to an end now. You had a brilliant career. You won world titles 10 years apart. It doesn't happen. Are you content? Are you a happy man these days, 2021?
Oh, hell yeah.
Beautiful.
Couldn't be happier.
Beautiful, man. And what are you up to now? Obviously, a lot of fighters, they retire from the sport. They've got no idea which way to look, which way to turn. What's keeping you busy? What's getting you out of bed these days?
Getting up in the morning, going to get in this truck, driving every day.
You're a truck driver?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, just a big box truck. We pick up biohazard.
You ever getting any road rage?
all the time. All the time. Luckily it's just me in the truck. They can't hear what I'm saying.
Gosh, yeah. Hopefully you never have to pull over or anything like that.
Only person here is my wife, because when I'm driving in the car, I still have the same road rage when I'm in my truck.
I just hope no one ever tries to say, hey, pull over, let's get out and fight. We don't need that. We do not need that. I want to put you on the spot here, Randall. I gave you a heads up on this question because I said I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Favorite UK fighter, any era? The listeners love to hear this.
Oh, man. I mean, it's a couple of them.
You can tell me as many as you want, man.
Joe Calzaghe.
Oh, yeah.
Lennox Lewis.
Yep.
I'm gonna say Ricky Hatton.
Yeah. Cool.
You know.
Yeah, these are all popular answers. A lot of people say this. Obviously you get the most popular answer is Prince Nassim Hamed. Everyone says.
I was just about to say him.
Yeah. People love the Prince,
but those are my top. Those are my top ones right there.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. They're fantastic, all of them. And just finally, before we wrap it up, Randall, if you've got any closing message, just to the listeners, to people that listen to this, particularly from the UK, I'm sure you've had tons of love over your career from guys in the UK. Over here, the boxing fans absolutely love the fighters. What's your message before we wrap it up to anyone listening, particularly the UK?
You know, I came over there in '97.
You came over in 97?
I was over at John Thackson's gym.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't know that.
And because I was there with Tony Tucker when he fought Herbie Hyde.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we was at Norwich.
Yeah. I'm sure you were well received. I'm sure they liked you over here.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, at that time I was only like I think I was 10-0 at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and John Thackson was coming up at the same time. I thought we probably would end up fighting, but it never happened.
Okay, that's cool. But no, just like I say, before we wrap it up, please send a message to anyone that listens, and particularly the guys here in the UK that have loved and supported you throughout your entire career.
Appreciate the love, and you know, I know a lot of the guys, we follow each other on Facebook and Instagram, and we talk all the time. So you know, it's all love.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, Randall, it's been an absolute delight and a pleasure speaking with you, walking down memory lane with you. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope we can speak again in the future.
Oh, anytime.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Alan the Savage Babbage, obviously going to be boxing on Dillian White's October 30th undercard in London. I really thought he was going to be taking on Lucas Brown. I'm not sure where I've got that from. I'm sure it was official, but anyways, it looks like that fight's no longer happening, and Babbage is now getting in with Eric Molina. I'm not expecting too much of a different scenario, really. I think he would have, and I think he gets both guys out there quite early, Babbage. Anyway, that's it for that one. Moving on to the final piece of news that I have. If anything else, happens from now to the end of the show, if any other news is to be broken while we're recording, I will speak about it at the very end. But in the other piece of news, Gervonta Davis and Rolando Romero, it is official. It takes place Sunday, December 5th at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. So that should be a decent fight. We're going to get to see how good Rolando Romero really is. A lot of people think he's cashing a check that, well, I don't know what the saying is, but writing a check he can't cash, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, that's it for the news. Moving on now to the preview part of the show. We're going to start here tomorrow, October 22nd at the Olympia Theatre in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Over here, return to the ring for former Triple G opponent Steve Rolls, 20-1. He takes on Gregory Trenell, who's 14-7 with 2 draws. But the main event, Oscar Rivas, 27-1, taking on Ryan Rozicki, who's 13-0 with 13 KOs. That's over 12 rounds. I've got a feeling that's for a Bridgerweight title or something like that. I think really and truly Rozicki is a light heavyweight, and obviously Rivas is a heavyweight, so I'm guessing it's some kind of Bridgerweight thing. I don't really know. Moving out now to Poland, one fight to mention over here. We've got Nikodem Jezewski, 20-1 with 1 draw. He got knocked out in 2 rounds by Lawrence Okoli at the back end of last year. He gets in a 10-rounder against friend of the show, friend of Eddie's, Steve Cunningham, 30-9 with a draw. The former Cruiserweight World Champion obviously didn't look too impressive last time out against Frank Mir, but I think he was coming off about 4 years in activity, but he's back here in Poland. We've also got on the undercard Yuri Kalenga, 27-6 against Serhei Radchenko, 7-7. That's about it for that. And moving out now to the main event, really, of the entire week. It takes place at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. It's going to be on ESPN+. I'm guessing it's going to be on Sky Sports over here. We've got the champion, Jamel Herring, 23-2, defending his WBO Super Featherweight World title against Shakur Stevenson, 16-0 undefeated. Before we get into that one, I just want to mention real quick the undercard. We've got a return to the ring. I think it's his second pro fight now for the grandson of the greatest, Nico Ali Walsh. He gets in with James Westley, who I think is also 1-0 as a pro. You've also got a couple of other people. You've got Evan Holyfield as well, the son of Evander Holyfield. He gets in with Charles Stanford over 6 rounds. But yeah, let's concentrate on the main event. Both guys been on the show before. Obviously Jamel Herring, big friend of the show, one of the coolest guys in boxing. My take on this, Eddie, is very short and sweet, so I'm going to come to you. I don't have too much to say. I think it's going to be a very skillful fight. I think that obviously Jamel has to use his size, considering really and truly he moved down from lightweight to get down to 130. He seems like he's, very comfortable at that weight, I'd say. And Shakur Stevenson, we've got to remember, really starting his career, still getting bigger and stronger as he gets older, I'm sure, but he started his career at featherweight. The size factor, you'd imagine, plays in Jamel Herring's hands, and the experience as a pro in Jamel Herring's hands. However, the experience as an amateur might not come into it, but I'd say that lies with Shakur Stevenson. I think it's got points written all over it, this fight, even though I thought the exact same thing last time Jamel got in the ring when he knocked out Carl Frampton. I thought he'd go to the distance with him. He knocked him out. He surprised me. But I think Shakur Stevenson, a bit too fresh to be knocked out. I think it goes the distance. Shakur Stevenson as well, going the distance last time with Jeremiah Nakafila. No one was really too impressed with that performance there. I'm really struggling to pick a winner. I'm obviously I'm obviously more on Jamel's side, so I'd like to see him win, as I'm sure most people would. But it's a tough fight. It's a really tough fight, and I just think my pick is that it goes the distance. I'm just not sure which way the judges will see it, and I think it's going to be a very highly skilled contest with a lot of close rounds.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't agree more. This is a pick 'em. It's a hard fight because looking at Jamel and his experience and what he does well in the ring, and then how it matches up with Shakur Stevenson, I do think that, you know, I don't want to say the skill edge, you know, completely goes to one side, being with Shakur or whatever, but he has a little more of, you know, flash, a little more, you know, I guess a little more sauce with it than Jamel does, but then Jamel has a little bit more pop and a little bit more ability to, you know, hurt you in any sense, and then size and then experience too. So, you know what I mean? Even if Shakur maybe have a little more, you know, the talent edge, the skill edge, you know, there's a lot of other things that, you know, that Jamel checks the box for. So it's kind of hard. It's a really difficult fight. It's what will win over in the end. I don't know what, you know, the general consensus would be with most fighters, and generally I think that most guys would think the same thing, would be like, this is a tough one to kind of judge, see where it's going to go. You know what I mean? Like, it's really going to be hard to pick before the night. You know, Shakur is really, really talented, has a lot of abilities, good speed, crafty, just a lot of things going for him that way, but I don't know. I'm with you on this one. Honestly, I mean, if you want to go with youth and who has, you know, I can't even say a better future, because you just never know. You know what I mean? Like, anything can happen. I mean, if Jamel goes and say beats Shakur, maybe stops him or something like that with a crazy shot, which is unlikely. Who knows what this does to his confidence going forward? You know what I mean? Maybe his career is in the dumps after it. Maybe he wins and the exact same thing happens to Jamel. Maybe, you know, it's a draw. Who the hell knows? This is just a really difficult fight to I imagine it's going to be a tough fight to score too. So it's going to be a crazy one. A lot of skill. I don't think this one is for the lay fan. I think this one is for the hardcores, to be honest. They're going to want to there's going to be a lot of little things that you're going to see, little nuggets of skill that you're going to see on both sides that you have to, I think, have an educated eye toward. I'm not saying that, you know, regular folks who don't watch boxing all the time and don't understand it quite as we do won't enjoy it, but it's definitely going to be for the more educated boxing fan, I think.
Yeah, and I think Jamel, as I've said before, one of the most improved fighters in world boxing since he's linked up with, you know, Brian McIntyre. He just looks a completely different fighter. Obviously, the constant sparring with Terence Crawford completely and obviously sharpening his tools, and he's got a lot of experience as a pro. Like I say, you know, he's lost a few fights, come back stronger. He really has, and he's improved for it. And you know, his work rate as well, I think, is you know, a really good thing. I remember him struggling when the first couple fights I think he had under Brian McIntyre. He still was a little bit. His gas tank wasn't fantastic around the midway point, but it seems like those problems have gone now as well. You know, he looks like he's completed a camp before he starts camp. I mean, there's no one with a better physique in boxing than Jamel Herring, especially at those lighter weights. I'm not talking about an Anthony Joshua. I mean, Jamel Herring is ripped to shreds, man. He's got an 8-pack before he even walks in the gym to start camp. So this guy is super dedicated, super disciplined, and he's got the ingredients to beat Shakur. But Shakur, you know, such a potential superstar for the future, you know. I mean, God, I've said it for ages, complete destined to be a boxer. I mean, this guy was born to fight, I think. I mean, what a good fighter. Very defensive mind as well at times. It's going to be such an interesting fight, but that is all I can say about it. It's going to be great. All I can say is make sure you tune in. Do not miss this fight. It's huge for that super featherweight division. The winner as well will have to fight soon enough, you'd think, Archie Sharp. So that's going to be fantastic. I'm a big friend of Archie's, of course. But anyway, that wraps up the preview part of the show. In part one, we did the reviewing. We welcomed our special guest. We did the news in part two, and I've just wrapped up the preview part there. The final thing for me to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in just a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 314 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A huge thank you to our special guest, the former two-weight world champion Randall Bailey. The biggest thanks of all, though, goes out to you, the listeners. There has been a couple of pieces of news break whilst we've been recording the show. I'm going to start with this one here. November the 6th, Frank Warren is lining up a card that's going to be taking place in Birmingham. The bill will be topped by Zach Parker. He gets in with Marcus Morrison. On the undercard, the return to the ring for Denzel Bentley. He gets in for the first time since losing to Felix Cash. We also have Nathan Heaney on that card as well, Ryan Garner, and the return to the ring for Willie Hutchinson, the first time back since being stopped by Lennox Clark. A couple of other guys as well on that card. In other news, it's a big blow actually. Dillian White out of his fight against Otto Wallin. Dillian White forced out with a shoulder injury, I'm led to believe. The show still goes ahead though. The main event now will be obviously the unification between Mary McGee and Chantel Cameron. That's been elevated to the main event, so that's still going to be a good card. Certainly I'll be tuning in for it. And Teofimo Lopez with George Kambosos Jr. Finally a date that seems quite secure since Matchroom Boxing have taken over the purse bids. It's going to be taking place at the Hulu Theatre in Madison Square Garden, November 27th, the date for that one. That's going to be such a good fight. It's been cancelled a few times. It looks like it's finally going to be happening. And remember, if you want to improve your below-the-waist hygiene, visit manscaped.com and use the promo code BoxHard for 20% off plus free shipping. But that's about everything from myself. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.